Hub STL Cards postgame show sponsored by Hot Shots. St. Louis is home for all games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com and also by DraftKings. The Cardinals, Chris, home run happy in both games, the first and the second. Combined 15-1, absolutely dominated the Reds. Pitching was stellar. A lot of exciting news today for the Cardinals to be happy about. Michaelis had a great outing early on. And then tonight, Matz had another stellar performance. So we're looking really good. If you want to take the Cardinals snapshot of today, this would be the time.
Yeah, Sarah. I mean, it's funny because for about the last 3 weeks, I've been telling people on and off of our fine little show here that you see things from all three facets: offense, pitching, bullpen, offense, starting pitching, bullpen, that make you think that this team could be kind of decent. But what I'm realizing now is that this team seems to struggle with at least one of those facets in most games. And sometimes it ends up being like critical, right? And they end up losing the game because they might've gotten a little bit of offense, good starting pitching, bullpen blows up, or they got good starting pitching, bullpen looked good, offense fell apart. That's what you're going to get with a team like this that's young, that doesn't have a lot of proven talent, that sort of thing. But today, I mean, literally all three things. I mean, I guess this is like what it feels like to be a Dodgers fan for a day or two. But, again, I mean, there's literally nothing that went wrong today. We can nitpick and say that after they went up by 9 runs in the third inning, that the Cardinals did not get anyone on base after that. I think the Reds finished with 20 straight retired Cardinal hitters. But again, that's a problem if there's not 9 runs on the board. So once again, a little bit of nitpicking, but, I mean, honestly, when you talk about these doubleheader days, they have the potential to ruin you in so many different ways, right? Like, losing 2 games in a day is soul crushing, right? That's terrible. You blow through 6 or 7 pitchers in your bullpen, soul crushing, right? Like, and none of that happened, right? Like, I mean, I think the team's going to be pretty fresh tomorrow. The bullpen is basically all their high leverage guys are available. So again, I mean, as they might say, Ollie Marmol couldn't have drawn it up any better. And maybe that's why he had so much jump in his step, in game 1. But
this was when you're ejected, you just got to have that extra enthusiasm.
But it was fantastic. I mean, again, there's nothing you can sit there and nitpick on this one. Just great in every facet.
Okay, so the final score in the second game was 9-1. The first game was 6-0. But let's talk briefly about Steven Matz. He answers the bell consistently, right? Like, so he comes in every time he's needed. He does his job. He does it so well. He's aggressive. He just pounds that sinker. He gets ground balls. And today was another prime example of that. But he's been one of not too many that have been a consistent performer for the Cardinals and someone that they just really have to hang their hats on right now.
Well, it's funny because it's like, John Mozeliak's got to be sitting in his office watching this and say, where was the Steven Matz for the first 3 years and 30 some odd million of that contract? I mean, this is what they paid for. The guy, like you just mentioned, pounds the sinker, is a strikeout guy when he's on right, he spots, he hits corners, a lot of soft contact. I mean, this year, Steven Matz has been fantastic. There's no two ways about it. Right now, the only negative you could say is that he's not built up because he was doing the bullpen thing for a while, had to stop at 75 plus 75-ish pitches today. So, but I mean, if they continue with, I mean, I don't know how you keep him out of the rotation at this point in time. And hopefully, he gets up to 100 pitches. He can go 6 innings. I mean, this is the guy you paid for. You had 3 really, really bad years. Last year, the contract, it's funny how that works sometimes. But, we sit here and this is such an interesting thing because, again, we are so early in the season. I've looked at this team and I sit here and I still say there's too much wrong with this group for us to get super excited about a potential surprise playoff team. I just don't think there's enough consistency with the group, even after a great day like today. So then you have to ask yourself, where does Steven Matz fit in? And, I've talked about this a lot in some of the pregame shows. Is this just auditioning, right? If Steven Matz continues along this track and you keep getting him starts and he's a guy who goes out there consistently and is giving 5 or 6 innings, whip close to 1, getting a strikeout per inning kind of guy. I mean, this is a guy who, as teams get down the stretch and are playing for postseason, this is the kind of guy that everybody wants to go back into their rotation. if he ends up being what we're seeing right now. So, again, this year was always going to be a big balancing act, right? You wanted to see the young guys do well because you want them to be the future of this team. You wanted to see the old guys do well too, so that maybe there's somebody who's willing to give you a decent prospect and take some of that money off the books down the stretch. And Steven Matz, what you've seen through, close to, I guess we're not quite at the quarter pole of the season, but this is exactly what you want out of Steven Matz. He's been fantastic. It was great tonight.
Well, it's exactly like what you just said. You want to see this stuff out of the young players because the Cardinals have been given the reasoning for not being quite as successful because we're reshaping, remolding, redeveloping, doing all these things. They're moving down to play like DFA up. I mean, they're going back and forth. And I actually called my dad the other day and I'm like, what is going on? Like, can you please give me like a little bit of just, I don't ever really call him about baseball stuff, but I'm just like, please just enlighten me on like what the situation. And he's like, they got to fit the puzzle pieces together. Like you got to find what works. And right now they're still trying to figure out what does work. Granted, there are some injuries that have taken place and some people that they didn't expect to, not be on the roster of the lineup. But, it is nice to see. It's nice to see production. It's nice to see like Miles Michaelis earlier. He had a stellar performance, but he's had other great performances. He didn't have the run support. And then when you flip flop it and you have the run support, then you don't have the pitching. So it's kind of like you got to kind of sync everything up.
Yeah, it's funny with Michaelis, right? Like, so here's this guy goes out and throws 5 1/3 great innings earlier today. He drops his ERA to 4.66. So again, it's not like it was coming, it's still kind of in that range, right. But he's had a couple of really bad outings, but then for the most part, he's been really good. And he was fantastic today, the way he worked the curveball. Miles Michaelis and Matz are, again, these are two guys who, if you see what you saw today consistently for 2 more months, there is going to be a market for these guys, and that's a good thing. I think it's very, very safe to say that these two guys do not have a future with the Cardinals, and that's okay because they're both in their mid to upper 30s. This isn't the direction the team is going in. The Cardinals are showing that they've got a pretty good young stable of arms that is going to be the future of this team. But, again, you sit here and say, fine, they keep doing this. We're going to win some ball games. That's fantastic. But like I said, I think that you just have to be excited because, again, this is what you wanted out of the old guys, right? And I'm sure you can't tell me that a guy like Matz and a guy like Michaelis aren't having a major impact on what Matthew Liberatore is doing this year. Gordon Graceffo today, my gosh, I know we're going to get to him, but 5 innings, that fastball's touching 99. I saw in our comment section here just a second ago that velocity uptick is exciting. I thought for a while that they were thinking about moving Graceffo to the bullpen because they didn't think, I've always known he has a big arm. So, the 99 from a, 1 inning type spurt thing, I think was maybe expected. But when you're out there and he threw, 70 something pitches tonight and he's hitting 99 with that fastball, 2 years ago, Gordon Graceffo was this team's best pitching prospect. And the way it works with the minors sometimes is guys come, guys go, years are good, years are bad, that sort of thing. We think McGreevy looks pretty good. We think Liberatore looks like he's a pretty good option. Andre Palante is definitely looking like a strong middle of the rotation kind of guy. Let's throw Graceffo back in that mix, And again, it's a lot easier to pitch when you've got a 9-run cushion. I will give him that. But Graceffo's stuff looked filthy tonight. And, congrats to him on getting that first win. So, another thing to be excited about was that performance.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the comments, Mizzou 1755, his velo increase was nice to see. I had done the post-game show with Stefan, a couple nights ago, and we were talking about like you have to have some guys that you can kind of plug and play when it comes to the pitching rotation. If you're strictly having guys that can only do X amount and bullpens that can only do 1 or 2 innings, you don't have like a mid-reliever guy. You don't have a guy that can really transition things. And I think that might be not necessarily the place, but if needed, he would be a good fit because you have some solid starters in the rotation, and then you can plug him in. If someone doesn't start off well, so great. Go to somebody else that can take over and give you those innings and not just tear up the bullpen to where you have nothing left at the end of the day.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to depend on what they decide to do with Matz long term. Like we kind of keep coming back and forth on 6-man rotation, not 6-man rotation. Matz is your long guy. If Matz is going to stick in that rotation, which I don't think anyone's going to disagree is where his potential value lies, then you're right. The team does need a good, longer, a long guy, somebody who's stretched out a little bit. And that's what Gordon Graceffo can bring. And, spring training was a little bit iffy for him. I think he's at a really delicate phase, and I'm sure your dad can tell you that, so many pitchers, they hit this fork in the road moment, right? When they're in the minors, they've been there for a couple of years. They're sniffing the majors. Maybe they got a chance. Maybe they haven't yet. But they got to kind of grab one direction and go. And Graceffo looked like he was going to be a guy a couple of years ago. Last year, you started to say, maybe he's playing a little bit more like his draft status would lead us to believe. And then this year, we see on a night like tonight what's possible with Gordon Graceffo. And if Steven Matz is going to stick in the rotation, which at this point I don't really know how you take him out of it, then they do need somebody who's got a little length, because there are going to be the games where your starter goes 2 innings and you don't want to demolish your bullpen. So, again, like your dad said, puzzle pieces, right? Where does he fit at this point in time? But I don't know how you watch what you saw tonight and see 5 innings of 2-hit ball. They kind of pieced together that run, I think in the 5th or 6th inning. But I mean, Graceffo was dominant. The stuff was fantastic. He worked his way through it again. Maybe it's a comfort thing that he had a big lead. I know it's easier to pitch that way, but end of the day, the stuff was the stuff. And the Reds are not a bad offensive team, and the Cardinals made them look bad all day today.
So you actually hit the nail on the head, because Dad was a starter originally, and they said, "Look, Kenny, this is where you have to go," and that's what he ended up being. Given he's a lefty, and versus so there's a lot of other things that went into play there. But
worked out pretty well for him.
You what?
Worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, it did. And actually, side note, he always wanted to be in the NBA. He loved basketball, and he had a dual scholarship for basketball and baseball to the University of Portland. He's like, I love basketball. That's what I wanted to do. That was my passion. And then coach was like, look, dude, you really have something here. Let's focus on baseball. And so that's when he changed directions and pivoted. So I don't want to make it about him, but I thought that was ironic that he just really loved something else in college and ended up going a different direction, and then was a starter, and they put him in relief, and it ended up doing pretty well for him. So let's transition quickly to, sorry, what?
Nope, nothing.
Oh, let's transition to Pages and Contreras, the power on the offense. It's nice to see. It's nice to see that they're contributing significantly, not just here and there and randomly. Game 2 specifically, a solo shot for Pages in the 2nd inning. Contreras, a 3-run shot in the 3rd. The Birds were just home run happy today, which I would love to see all the time. But, warmer temperatures, I'm not going to give them everything. And just a side note, they did have a major league debut pitcher on the other side that was 22 years old. And I have to play the mom card for one hot second. My heart broke for him. I couldn't imagine a major league debut as a mom. They showed his family sitting there. Yes, it's one thing to get beat, but 9 earned runs. Remember it, I guess. That's a good point.
But Sarah, what's so funny is it seems like the Cardinals have seen a few major league debuts this year. Obviously, a lot. They seem to struggle with people they haven't seen before. So, I mean, I think that any Cardinal fan who sat there and saw Chase Petty and said, "Who is that?" and say, "Oh, major league debut." I mean, that's been the Cardinals' kryptonite. These guys that they don't have film on or whatnot. So the fact that they went out and were aggressive, and Chase Petty's got stuff. I mean, this is not a guy who, I mean, again, he is 23, long way to go, got to learn how to pitch. There's no two ways about that. But I mean, the guy's got good stuff, and they were aggressive, and this is, I think, where we're seeing Brant Brown's influence to a degree, because, they were aggressive, but also worked counts, they were hitting the pitches that were right. I know Pages' home run came on the 10th pitch of the at bat, which is literally like the definition of the best at bat you can ever have, when you take somebody 10 pitches deep and then knock one over the fence. So, Pedro Pages is exactly what I think we all hoped he was, which is, a better defensive option than Ivan Herrera when he comes back. Is he elite defensively? I don't know that we can go that far, but Pedro Pages always puts together a pretty decent little at bat. Again, I don't know that he'll ever be a silver slugger at catcher. But if we can go back to this, because Ivan Herrera's started a rehab assignment tonight in Memphis. So he's obviously knocking on the door. And again, this is the discussion that we had a lot early in the season about, Ivan Herrera's defense and this sort of thing. But, again, I think that the plan is for Ivan Herrera to evolve a little bit defensively, keep that big stick, and you have a really nice 1-2 punch with him and Pages, who, just complement each other. Just neither with gaping holes, to the point where, again, the defensive thing with Herrera, we can discuss, ad nauseum. But again, the team had a plan, and, Pages, again, I just, for losing your starting catcher the way they lost Herrera, Pages has filled in more than admirably. The more I see Pedro Pages, the more I say, this is a guy who, this team is lucky to have, handles a pitching staff well, controls a running game to a degree, puts together decent at-bats. I mean, he's everything you could ever want out of a guy who's making the league minimum, and you've got him under control for another 4 years after this one. So, gotta love Pedro Pages. No two ways about that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that at bat. 10, 11 pitches, fouled off, battled, fought, and then he takes freaking just the breaking ball over the middle and launches it. And it's like the smile on his face, it's like, that's what I intend. Just to see some of the reaction of the players, like emotionally, I think they have been so stuck in somewhat of a just neutral spot because they have highs and lows, and then things don't really pan out how they want to. Today was a great day. I mean, both the games, they're riding high, and sometimes it takes those kind of slump busters to really get over the hump and to just continue the process, because we've all been talking about the talent. It's been there, right? It just hasn't really been put together.
Well, it's funny too, because and all credit to John Denton from MLB.com on this one, but he had a funny little tweet where he said, Cardinals won as many games on the road today as they have the entire season to this point. I mean, it's just like, it's like, golly, it's been bad on the road. You didn't really know it's been that bad on the road. And maybe this is the thing that gets them over that hump. There has been some level of a mental hurdle away from Busch. And again, I mean, I saw another comment earlier, best day of the season so far. I don't know how you argue with that. I mean, this is the most complete the team has looked. They did it twice in a row against a team that had won 5 games in a row coming to this. Again, Cincinnati, I don't know if they're going to be as good as the Cubs this year. If they get a little bit of pitching, you
lost me at Cubs. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
I mean, the sad part is, Sarah, I hate to say it, but the more I watch the Cubs, the more I think they are by far the most complete team in this division. But the Reds offensively, I mean, there is just a lot of young talent there. If they get any sort of starting pitching, and then I think, not to get too far off topic, but boy, the Reds got to get that bullpen figured out. I mean, game one was, obviously a close game, close enough that Terry Francona thought, let me put in my closer just to keep this thing tight, and then we'll go ahead and win this thing in the 9th. And Alexis Diaz comes in and gives up 5 runs in an inning. So as long as, if he's not right, that's a big problem for that team. But again, end of the day, offensively, the Reds are a pretty solid team. They've gotten decent pitching this year. I think they're going to be around for a wild card spot, and the Cardinals just dismantled them today. So, again, I'm a big believer in the old saying that momentum is only as good as tomorrow's starting pitcher, which is Matthew Liberatore. But I mean, if anything could build momentum, this day, the offensive performances, what you saw out of 2 guys who you don't really lean on, in your starting rotation. Great game everything really, really did go well today. Jordan Walker hit the ball hard, which we know we need to see him doing more of that. Wilson Contreras, like you mentioned before, is kind of slowly working his way out of that early season slump. So again, there are things to be positive about. I don't think there's any two ways about that. Absolutely. And so again, I don't want to be like downer and be like, oh gosh, there's still a lot of bad stuff on a day where they win 2 games by a combined score of 15-1. But, there is still bad stuff. Let's be real about that. They got to string it together, right? It's got to be, is this the first step in them making this a little bit more interesting of a summer than a lot of us think it's going to be? And so I don't know if they play like they played today, sky's the limit. But again, young team, consistency is the big issue. So we'll see.
I really, really, really hope that some of the slumpish or sluggish starts, I guess is a good word to put it, is out of their system. And some teams see it in the middle of the season, some see it towards the end of exhaustion. I hope they kind of just got out of the way, and then it's only uphill from here, because at some point for the Cardinals and their expectations, it's really not gonna get really much worse than this unless we have some serious injuries, fingers crossed. So once again, the Cardinals beat the Reds tonight by a final score of 9-1, and baseball season is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings picks. Think of DraftKings Pick Six as your favorite fastball right down the middle. It's the earliest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Download DraftKings Pick Six app and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick Six from DraftKings.com. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
So at this point, Cardinals 14-7. The Reds now 16-15. We have one more game tomorrow for the series, and then we come back home to Busch Stadium. The bullpen maintains dominance for the Cardinals, and that was something that early on we were just shredding. I mean, shredding. It was not a good situation. The Cardinals continue to impress in Game 2 today, and we talked about a lot of the situations that are falling into place, but there's others that are contributing, limited the Reds to one run over final innings. And this performance followed a combined shutout in Game 1. So let's talk about some of the highlights of the bullpen and give some props where credit's due.
Yeah. I mean, if you had told Ollie Marmol that he would have gotten through today's games with 2 wins and didn't have to use Ryan Helsley or Phil Maton, I mean, I think he would have, again, jumped over the railing, and given you a high five to do so. Like, it just doesn't work any better than this, right? You see, obviously, Michaelis gives you a little bit of length in the first game, and then you get a really, really nice outing from Matz Vonson. I mean, like, I think the guy, that's a guy who's earned more time. I mean, that his sinker is filthy. I mean, this is a guy who's closed in the minor leagues for a long time. He needs to be getting a little bit more high leverage situations. Jojo Romero had a nice outing today, which, if this team is going to do anything, Jojo Romero's got to settle back in to what he was before, right? I mean, this is a guy who this team relies on. He's their high leverage lefty. Early in the season, not a few not great outings. When the bullpen was not looking fantastic. So again, I love seeing those guys come out and do good things. And then again, I mean, if you sit there and you say, you're going to give up 1 run between Steven Matz and Gordon Graceffo in your second game. Gordon Graceffo is your 27th guy today. Like, literally, he's not even a roster guy at this point, and you don't have to use anything else from a bullpen standpoint other than Gordon Graceffo today. Like, there's literally no way to draw it up any better. And so, to the original point, right, about this bullpen, I mean, Jojo Romero has got to be what he was today, right, consistently. Matz Vonson, I think, has earned the Ryan Fernandez role, right? He needs to be in higher leverage games. Helsley's obviously been better, good, as good as you want Helsley to be. He's certainly not the one that you're worried about, but everything before that, to a small degree, there is some concern. And so it's great to see, 3 2/3 scoreless in the first one, 5 from your 27th guy in the second. So, if the bullpen had been this solid all year, right? This isn't a team that's 3 games under 500. This is a team that's probably 3 or 4 games over 500 at this point in time. So, again, I mean, I think that at this point in time, they're probably realizing that Fernandez and John King still need to get right. Keep putting them in lower level leverage situations, send them down, to get the work they need to get right. If you're looking for your balance at this point in time, though, I mean, it's looking like, clearly we know that Helsley's at the back end. We know that Romero and Maton are going to be your high leverage guys. Who are the guys before that, at this point in time? And, I really can't sit here and say that I don't think Matz Vonson deserves more of an opportunity to do that. So, yeah, I mean, again, moving those pieces in place, and when you have as many young arms as this team does, fighting for time in the bullpen, you got to kind of live with the ebbs and flows. So again, a great day for the bullpen today. hopefully this is a harbinger of things to come. And, maybe we do see a little bit more Matz Swanson as the season goes on.
So tomorrow, Cardinals back in action once again at 11:40 to wrap up the series before they come home. Final thoughts, Chris. We only have actually on, for batting averages, only one guy hitting just sub 200. So, I mean, we're starting to get the numbers up where they need to be. And I was talking to Stephanie the other night, and I was like, Hall of Famers hit what, three out of 10 every 3 out of 10 at bats they're producing. So if you have a whole team collectively hitting up in those numbers, something has to be an outcome. And if it's not that, then it's going to be the pitching, which I think we're figuring that all out. So what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would probably just say this. I think offensively, I think the Brant Brown impression is evident with this team. Good, longer at bats. Striking out early on in the season was not as big of an issue as it's become a little bit later. They need to continue with the contact approach. But by the same token, there was a point in the season early on where they were hitting the ball pretty regularly, getting 8 and 9 hits a game, but scoring 2 runs. So the slug has to happen. It's great to see Jordan Walker barrel the ball up tonight. Again, offense is always going to be a little bit of work in progress. For me, walking away from this thing, I just love the fact that 2 guys who many people had questions about were the main drivers behind a sweep of the Reds to end a 5-game winning streak. And I'm very, very excited about Matthew Liberatore tomorrow. I don't know how anyone who's watched him pitch the last 2 or 3 weeks doesn't see this guy turning into what John Mozeliak saw when he traded Randy Arozarena and Jose Martinez for the guys. So, hopefully this stair step towards high top level guy, 1 or 2 in a rotation kind of guy continues for Liberatore, because he's been, my most pleasant surprise of the season. So great day today. Fingers crossed that it continues tomorrow. And I think they got the right guy on the bump to do it. So, let's finish up with 3 on 3, winning 3 games on the road in a series as opposed to 2 the entire year before. So, this is a big moment, I think. So let's see what they got tomorrow, and hopefully, like I said, that we see Liberatore do what he can do, and maybe this is the start of something great for this group.
And it also gives the Cardinal fans a reason to be excited about coming back home and the product that's being put out on the field. So good things to come. Fingers crossed tomorrow after they wrap up the series with the Reds. Again, they won the first game 6-0, 9-1 in the second, a total of 15-1 for the Birds. We appreciate you joining us. I'm going to say go Blues just because that's where everyone's going to switch to next. From the dirt to the ice, that's Chris Pelikan. I'm just along for the ride. I'm Sara Dayley. Thank you for joining us right here on Cards Hub Postgame Show on the Sports Hub STL YouTube channel. Subscribe, like us, comment, let us know what you think, and we'll be back in action tomorrow morning with Brooke and Randy, but also the Blues Postgame Show tonight after hopefully another victory for the Note.